Why are you gay?
It was a choice I made when I couldn't find a table at the high school cafeteria.
Cork up those ink pots. We know that's not how it works.
Or perhaps it is. Hello guys, this is Dissidentus, and in today's video we are celebrating Pride Month by releasing Project 1. We truly hope all of you enjoy the video and take everything with a grain of salt. Hello guys, welcome to the Sexual Revolution 2.0. This is Dissidentus speaking and this is Project 1. In today's video we are going to hurt some feelings. We are going to explain how sexuality works. And we are going to change the world. Now you may think we are crazy for believing that we are going to change the world with a video with as low quality as this one. But as the sale of our NFT starts, quality will improve everywhere. Keep in mind that this is work in progress, meaning that we may not get everything right away. But yeah, it's time to promote our NFT a bit and get ready for some dank knowledge. Here we have our NFT, and what you see on the slide is a still of our NFT. In actuality, it's an MP4. There will be 4,949 units of the token of sexuality, and it is the hallmark of the Sexual Revolution 2.0. There is 5% royalty and some interesting art. It's supposed to resemble a brain, but you know, art is subjective. 99.9% of all NFTs are shit. And the purpose of this NFT is to be an authenticator when we release the physical book. So we are going to make 5,000 very special books, perhaps metal plate them, do something with them to make them a true collectible, other than the super dank knowledge within the book. And well, the NFT also serves the purpose of funding this project and our coming projects. And you have to keep in mind that there are no time set for this project and there are no promises of new projects. But if this NFT performs well, we will do a second project. If we do not sell out, we will burn the remaining ones. And well, if you buy the first NFT, you will get free NFTs for future projects. So we will do 49 units for each project. So, well, if you want to buy a piece of history, go to rarible.com/sexuality. What you can see at the bottom right is our Ether address, so you make sure you do not buy a fake NFT. We have some ideas for what we want to do with the second project. Perhaps community access and passive incomes. But yeah, that is still a bit far into the future. So without further ado, let's get on with the theory. Dissidentus theory about sexuality, or critical sexuality theory. I think that would be a fun name. Our theory is called the two-factor theory, and our intentions are not to hurt people's feelings, but, well, to drop a metaphorical nuke on the LGBTQ community. A red pill nuke, that is. We have not used any prior knowledge developing this theory. We started from scratch, so we know that the information we present today is true. Goals. Well, we are going to offer a cure for pedophiles and beastiality. That's the main goal of this project. We are also going to go in heavy on homosexuality for the people who are interested in, solving issues with that. So hopefully we are going to change the culture and sell out our NFT. So this is just a theory. We are not liable for anything this presentation may cause, and all of this, it may just be bullshit, who knows. We do not have all knowledge yet. Here is where you come in. So we have a link in the description that will lead you to a Google document. And in this document, that is, for now, that is our website. And I know it looks a bit sketchy. We are going to launch a website in the coming months, probably. But for now, that will have to do. In that document, you can find links to forums where we discuss the theory. And if you want to participate and help developing this theory, that would be of massive help to the entire world. So please do so if you have any knowledge you can bring to us. What is sexuality? Sexuality is the huge drive evolved to sustain a species. Sexuality is what you are attracted to and the emotions you want to experience for sexual pleasure. But what's really important here is to understand that sexuality is what differs a male and a female psyche. Our theory is called the two-factor theory, and here we have the two factors. Factor 1, sexual emotion, and Factor 2, views of the sexes. So Factor 1, what do you prefer to do in bed? What emotion are you seeking? And what role are you playing? In bed, you are playing a role because you are seeking an emotion, and that emotion is your sexual emotion. So for instance, the normal straight man, he is playing the dominant role in bed because he's seeking the emotion of dominance or control. And that emotion of dominance is his sexual emotion. So sexual emotion is decided by emotional presets to people, or you could call it emotional rules you have when dealing with people. Factor 2, views of the sexes. What should each sex do in bed according to you? Basically, who do you want your sexual partner to be experiencing your sexual emotion? Sex could also be a group of people or animals. So views of the sexes is decided by conscious and subconscious opinions. And yeah, also experiences and behavior. What differs a straight man and a straight woman's sexuality is Factor 1. They both believe, if we look at Factor 2 first, they both believe a man to be the dominant role in bed. They both believe a woman to be the submissive role. And then when we look at Factor 1, a man wants to be the dominant role and a woman wants to be the submissive role. If they are straight, of course. So now we are going to look at Factor 1, sexual emotion, the emotion you want to experience in bed. Most straight men have dominance as their sexual emotion. And people with dominance as sexual emotion, they want to penetrate. They want to control in bed. In other words, they are a top. Most straight women have submission as their sexual emotion. They want to let the other participant control them in bed. They want to get penetrated by the other participant. They are a bottom. Top and bottom, that has been for a very long time gay lingo, and it describes their sexual emotions. Many men and some women have a sexual emotion that belongs to the category sadism or masochism. Sadism or masochism has many different causes, and also many sexual emotions, so different fetishes. You do not always need to experience your sexual emotion for ejaculation. So us men, as an example, a straight man getting a blowjob. If you're a straight man getting a blowjob, let's say you are laying back and you are letting the woman do her thing. In that case, you are not penetrating, you are not controlling the sexual act. Yeah, that has to do with Factor 2. Factor 2 is the reason that some men can ejaculate from that by just laying back. However, there are many men who cannot ejaculate by just laying back and getting a blowjob. They need to feel control. So for many men, they have to face fuck the woman in order to ejaculate. Sexual emotion is decided by emotional presets one has when dealing with people. We call these presets emotional barriers and social urges. And here is the short story of what we are going to tell now for the coming 30 minutes. When one emotion regarding how you handle people in a neutral setting wins 90% of the time, or 100% of the time, that same emotion will be your sexual emotion. Here we have a great outlook at Factor 1 and how Factor 1 works with Factor 2. And as you can see on the screen, we have a bunch of behavior groups, and we need your help to find more of these behavior groups. And what is a behavior group? Well, a behavior group, what differentiates a behavior group That is their emotional presets. So each of these have their own emotional presets, and therefore they have their own sexual emotion. Emotional presets is what causes sexual emotion to change. So we are going to go a bit in depth on 1 and 1D, and then we are going to speed it up from there. So we have group 1, they are a top, meaning that they have dominance as their sexual emotion. Group 1 is also the natural group for normal straight men. 95% of the people in this group are men, and 5% of the people in this group are women. Those men and women are attracted to the sex or group of people they view sexually submissive. In most cases, that is women. So both the men and the women in this group, most of them are attracted to women. Some of them are attracted to men, and 2% are attracted to kids, animals, and seniors. Now we can, so hopefully now you understand that for all of these groups you can be a man or a woman who is attracted to men or women, or kids or animals or seniors. You can have any sexual attraction, any specific sexual attraction in any of these groups, and you can be any sex in any of these groups. And now we have group 1D. They have 2 sexual emotions, dominance as well as projecting insecurity. And projecting insecurity, that's their sexual emotion. And usually the fetishes they have involve humiliating others, raping people, voyeurism, snuff, and scaring people. So we have voyeurism fetish and rape fetish, and humiliating others, that's like a category. So there are a bunch of different fetishes in humiliating others. Almost all people in group 1D are men. They are attracted to the group they view sexually submissive, and that's from the dominance part of their sexual emotion. Then they are also attracted to a group that has something that's humiliating to lose, according to them. Basically, they're from the part of projecting insecurity, from that part of their sexual emotion, they will usually have a specific fetish, and that specific fetish will usually involve a group losing something, getting humiliated, losing dignity, or whatever, and that will affect what they are attracted to. But both men and women, the few women in this group, are mainly attracted to women. But pedophilia and beastiality and homosexuality is a bit more common in group 1D. Then we have group 2, the natural group for normal straight women. They have submission as their sexual emotion. Almost all people in this group are women. They are attracted to the group they view sexually dominant. And in most cases, these men and women in group 2 view men sexually dominant. Some of them view women sexually dominant. And 4% view kids, animals, and seniors sexually dominant. So that is what they are attracted to. Then we have group 3, and this is a really interesting group, and we have a bunch of iterations of the group, like 2+3, 3A, and 3D. And it's a really important group, and there are a lot of sexual deviancies in this group as well as group 1D. So group 3, their emotional preset is worthlessness or no value, and their sexual emotion is worthlessness. Then they have several types of humiliation fetishes, jealousy fetishes, pain fetishes, as well as submission fetishes. All of those connect to their feeling of worthlessness. Almost all people in group 3 are men. They are attracted to the group they view as sexually dominant, or the best provider of humiliation according to their fetish, to their fetish. Homosexuality is really common in this group. 65% are attracted to men, 31 women, 4% kids, animals, and seniors. And then we have group 2+3. Here we have 2 sexual emotions as well, submission and worthlessness. So usually it's like humiliation through submission will be their fetish. It's like group 2, but with BDSM or getting raped fetish. 90% of the people in this group are women, 10% men. they are attracted to the group they view sexually dominant or violent or disgusting. And in most cases, that is men. So the men and women in this group, 85% of them are attracted to men, 5% women, 10% kids, animals, and seniors. And in most cases, that is animals and seniors. Then we have group 3A. They are both a bottom and a top. So they have worthlessness, which is it's a bottom. Worthlessness, that's bottom. And top, they have dominance with advantage as their sexual emotion. So that's basically rape fetish. So worthlessness as their sexual emotion, that means that they also have all the fetishes group 3 has, like specific humiliation fetishes, jealousy, pain, submission. 99% of the people in this group are men. They are attracted to a group of people or a sex they view as powerless, or sexually dominant, or the best provider of humiliation. The men and the very, very few women in this group, most of them, 60% are attracted to men, 30% kids, animals, and seniors, and 10% women. So the 30% that are attracted to kids, well, obviously there are pedophiles. Group 3A is the most common group of the pedophiles. There are, of course, a lot of pedophiles in group 1D as well, but group 3A is really, really important for that reason. Then we finally have group 3D. They are also both a bottom and a top. Their sexual emotion is worthlessness as well as project insecurity. So, humiliating others, rape, voyeurism, that's their type of fetishes, as well as humiliation fetishes, jealousy fetishes, submission. Almost all people in this group are men. They are attracted to a group that have something that's humiliating to lose, best provider of humiliation, or a group they view sexually dominant. 50% of them are attracted to men, 40% women, and 10% kids, animals, and seniors. Group 3D is not very common, but yeah, these are the groups for now. We suspect that there is a group 2D as well, but we have not done any research around that, so we're going to look into it. And we need your help to find more of these behavior groups. And now we are going to explain the emotional presets these groups has. So on this slide we can see all of the behavior groups as well as their emotional presets. Now group 1, they don't have an emotional preset to people. So normal straight men, they don't have an emotional rule. However, all the other groups do. And it's also important to understand that these emotional presets, for many of the people in these groups, it's only visible, or the emotional preset is only active when they are interacting with certain people. So if we take a look at group 1D, they have fear of independence, fear of being weak, fear of responsibility as their emotional preset. We could also call this emotional preset dependence. That's where the D in group 1D comes from. Some of the people in group 1D always acts on the emotional preset to people that they are weak, or fear of being weak, let's say. However, to belong to the group, they only have to interact, they only have to act on the emotion of fear of being weak when they are interacting with their last social circle or all of their social circles. Less than all, that's the same thing. Your last group of friends is all of your friends. And what separates social circles is, that is your contacts. So let's say you have your family at home and you have your friends at work. And if they do not know each other, and if those two groups of people, your family and your friends, are not apart... Okay, this came out pretty stupid, but hopefully you understand me. We have group 2, they have the emotional preset to people that they depend on them, the emotion of dependence. And some people of group 2 will always act on this emotion of dependence when they are talking to, well, anybody, just in the street. But many, many women, almost all of them, never do so. They only act on this emotion of dependence when they are socially interacting with their social circles. In particular, the last or all of them. And also prospects, meaning that their emotions will kick in when they are trying to gain new friends. And they will therefore act on social urges. Then we have group 3. They have the emotional preset to people that they do not have any value towards other people. Well, when they are interacting with their family, their friends, people they know already value them because, well, you always know that your family values you, hopefully. That value is external. You know that they are valuing you. Therefore, you're not acting on an inner sense of value. However, it's visible when they are interacting with strangers, especially strangers who have not recognized the value of the person in group 3. Don't worry if you do not understand all of this, because we are going to explain the social actions of all of these emotions in about 2 slides. So do not worry. Hopefully some of you get it already. But yeah, group 2 plus 3, it's really simple. You combine group 2 with group 3, both the emotional presets to people, and that's how that group works. Then we have group 3A, no value with an exception. Just like group 3, group 3A cannot act on a sense of inner value when interacting with strangers. However, if they have a social advantage, they can, because they feel safe. Then we have group 3D, no value plus fear of independence. They are basically group 3 plus the dependence part of group 1D. So, yeah. Before we go through the behavior groups and their behavior, we are just going to repeat that sexual emotion is only decided when there are emotional rules to a behavior. So just because someone acts like a behavior group doesn't mean that they have that sexual emotion. Emotional preset plus social action equals your sexual emotion. Also, the term social circle, it can be anywhere from 1 to an unlimited amount of people. Your social circle at your job could be your one friend, and then you have your social circle at home, which is, well, let's say 5 people. But in theory, it could be an unlimited amount of people. Social circles usually do not go above 150 people. And they rarely go up to anywhere near those numbers these days. People are not in one big social circle nowadays, they are in many smaller ones. You have your friends at your work, you have your friends at school, you have your friends at the gym, and you have your family at home. So we are going to start off by taking a quick look at behavior group 1. There's not really much information about this group because sexual abnormality among the people in group 1 usually comes from factor 2, given that their sexual emotion is very simple. It is control, or dominance, you could call it. But anyways, we have the example here, boozy. That's a pretty dank example. So the majority of the people in group 1 are straight men. They are at top, and this is the natural group for normal straight men. They do not have an emotional preset, therefore no emotional barrier and no social urges. This is the most simple behavior group, and factor 2 decides which sex they want to dominate or control in bed. And now we're taking a close look at the sexual emotion of behavior group 1. So, well, their sexual emotion is dominance. They want to dominate or control in bed. They have an indifference towards a consenting partner for their sexual emotion to work. However, non-consenting will usually be a turn-off due to other irrelevant personality traits, like sympathy. And the reason we say this is because, of course, other groups with rape fetish, their entire sexual emotion will only work if their partner is not consenting. So they will not be attracted in any way, they will not like the sex if the partner is consenting. So behavior group 1, they will enjoy sex with anyone. They have no emotional rules they can relate to people. And this will become clear when we go through groups like group 2 and group 3. You will understand why men are a lot more promiscuous. We can fuck anything pretty much. And that is because of the lack of these emotional rules. So if we look at the bottom, factor 2 decides which sex or both or group of people they want to dominate in bed. So who are they attracted to? It could be men, it could be women, it could be children, it could even be animals. And of the group of people they choose, or in some cases animals, they will fuck anything they see slightly sexually attractive, but only looks-wise. So personality have no weight, usually doesn't have... Well, if you compare it to group 2 with women, they will not fuck a beautiful super retard with 50 IQ points. However, many men will fuck a retarded, beautiful woman. So yeah, that's a funny way of putting it, but looks are the most important thing for sexual attraction for people in group 1. So yeah, that sums up group 1. So here we have behavior group 1D. The example here is Paul Bernardo. These people are at top, their sexual emotion is dominance and humiliating others and hurting people. And what they're basically doing through their sexual emotion is projecting their own insecurity onto their sexual partner. So there are a lot of sick people in this group, just like Paul Bernardo. He was a really sick fuck. The majority of group 1D are sadistic straight beta men. Emotional preset for this group? Well, they have a fear of independence. They believe themselves to be dependent on the people around them. They have a fear of independence, fear of being weak, and fear of responsibility. They do not have an emotional barrier, but they have social urges. Social urge to slander and bully in specific situations. It's a very simple behavior group, very similar to group 1, but with a lot of interesting features. Just like with all other groups, factor 2 decides which sex or group of people they want to dominate in bed or sexually humiliate in bed. It's a group that is very common, and we will probably add a lot more information to this group. So now we are taking a look at the social urges of behavior group 1D. So the group acts on the fear of being weak, fear of being independent, fear of abandonment, as they believe themselves to be, dependent. Also a bit fear of responsibility. The most obvious results of acting on these emotions are: number 1, slandering behind the back of people with high status or people they hear good things about. Number 2, bullying people that are at a disadvantage. The bullying could be both verbal and physical. Number 3, passive-aggressively insulting people. The victim will often be someone that potentially could replace them in a social circle or be placed above them in the hierarchy, but the victim is currently in a weak spot. The social urge will often cause group 1 to bully anyone with a perceived weakness, even though they are not a social threat. They are trying to look strong, but only when they are in for a fight where they have the advantage. They are punching down to look strong and therefore minimizing the risk of being abandoned. In most cases, fear of abandonment presents itself of fear of being weak. It's quite interesting. Fear of being weak and fear of being replaced or abandoned, they are not really the same thing. But to your mind, these two emotions are the same emotion. I don't know what we should call it. The beta emotion, maybe that will be fun. But anyways, there are several emotions. I don't know. We may categorize the emotions and categorize the social urges they cause, but we have not noticed a difference in sexual emotion. So the emotion stems from fear of being independent, having responsibility, as they believe themselves to be dependent and weak. So now we are taking a look at the sexual emotions of behavior group 1D. So this group is interesting because they have two sexual emotions, not just one. They have both dominance as well as projecting their own insecurity. And since they have two, they can kind of choose which emotion they are going to seek during the sexual act. And hopefully they are not seeking projecting their own insecurity in a sexual act, as that would be kind of rapey, right? But anyway, if they are masturbating, they can kind of choose which side of their sexuality they want to experience. And if they choose dominance, their sexuality will work just like group 1, meaning that they will enjoy sex with anyone who they find sexually attractive, looks-wise. Their dominance part of sexual emotion will be bigger if they do not masturbate or fuck a lot. But anyways, they will enjoy projecting their own insecurity even more than the dominance part. And they will enjoy doing so in a sexual way towards people who express fear and shame. So they will not enjoy projecting their insecurity to everybody. Just the people who express fear and shame going through the insecurity that the person in group 1D have. The sexual emotion of group 1D, humiliating others, will be translated to what the individual with this sexual emotion will find humiliating or are afraid of. And that's the definition of projecting, of course. Here we have some examples of fetishes: voyeurism, groping and stripping, raping virgins, exhibitionism, spreading videos, hunting and killing. So just like I said, we'll only enjoy sexually humiliating or scaring people that they can humiliate and scare. The reaction is important. The group enjoys making people feel powerless and scared. Another group with rape fetish, group 3A, wants them to be powerless. So the groups are not related, even though they have similar sexual emotions. And here we can see some of the fetish causations. And yeah, since they are projecting their own insecurity, it should be pretty obvious why they have the fetish that they have. Sometimes the insecurity they will project will be one they have experienced in a traumatic fashion, but an ordinary insecurity, something we all have without a traumatic event, is very common as well. And if we look at the bottom, factor 2 decides which sex or both sexes or group of people they want to dominate and humiliate in bed. And of the group they choose, or factor 2 chooses for them, they will enjoy sexually humiliating people that are showing pain, shame and fear going through the insecurity of group 1D. Here we have the final slide for behavior group 1D, and it's an interesting additional feature of the group. If group 1D fails to find their sexual emotions or ignores them or fails to express it, it can create other non-sexual as well as sexual desires. These desires will be caused by the emotional preset causing social urges, as the social urges are not sexually expressed. So basically they are caused by the emotion of dependence and, well, emotions of weakness. To our knowledge, this includes exhibitionism, cross-dressing, sexually humiliating themselves, an urge to be cute and small rather than handsome and big. Kinky shit. This is one possible path towards transgenderism, as none of the actions above actually deals with their suppressed sexual emotion. The sexual urge can grow over time. The sexual urge to express these suppressed emotions. It's also a sneaky path towards homosexuality, as this emotion of dependence can be slightly relieved sexually interacting with men. And that has to do with factor 2. Group 1 deals with their emotion of dependence by being a bully or a slanderer, not by acting dependent. Suppressing their sexual emotions to sexually bully will make them look for ways to sexually express their emotion of dependence, but with failure to climax. Dependence is not their sexual emotion. And well, a long shot. Could 1D be a potential path towards a group shift to group 2? Same emotion, well, almost the same emotion. It's not really the same type of dependence, but it nevertheless is a form of dependence. But it's a different way of handling the emotion. We think it's a long shot. It's probably true for some individuals out there. But well, who knows? So now we are taking a look at behavior group 2. The example here is AOC. This is the natural group for normal straight women. The majority of group 2 are straight women. Their sexual emotion is submission, meaning that they are a bottom. Their emotional preset is dependence. In other words, they are seeking social security and belonging. Their emotional barrier is they cannot risk losing or abandoning all social circles. All, that could also be the last social circle, of course. They have the social urge to protect emotions of valued social circles or people. It's the most complex behavior group along with group 2+3. Being nice can be confused with some of the social urges. Social urges can be many different social actions. Factor 2 decides which sex or group of people they want to submit to in bed. Now we are taking a look at the emotional barrier of behavior group 2. So they can't leave their last or all social circles permanently. The group is subconsciously aware of this, and it causes the group to not risk abandonment. It also causes social urges to protect the emotions of the people in their social circles. So the entire dynamic between men and women, and why women are not competitive in the dominance sphere as in the same way men are, is because they cannot act against an ultimatum in order to keep their social circle. So when they're down to their last social circle, imagine us all 500 years ago or maybe 1,000 years ago wandering through nature, and the person of behavior group 2 gets an ultimatum. Either you go and pick these berries for us, or you get the fuck out. You leave right now. The person of behavior group 2 will do anything to keep the last social circle. They will do anything. And this is the entire dynamic between men and women, and why women are not competitive in the dominance sphere, just like men are. They will do anything to keep the last social circle. And of course, it's not very visible, because women these days have multiple social circles. Hopefully they have a strong, loving and present family, and it will make the emotional barrier quite weak, or well, not very visible, since they can always fall back on their family. So if they have multiple social circles at each place, like a few at work, a few at the gym, and a bunch of random friends, then they will never have to risk their last social circles, since they have so many. A social circle, or a person, must value the individual of group 2 for the individual of group 2 to view themselves as a part of that social circle. The circle can be a bit abusive, but if they are abusive, they will usually look for new social circles. But they will stay if there is a sense of security along with this abusive person or circle. This behavior group will always find a new social circle before leaving an old one. And it is of course because of their emotional barrier. The following examples, we are going to do some examples of actions in about 2 slides. And these examples will be mandatory, or will always be true, if the individual of group 2 feels threatened by abandonment from their last social circle. What people of group 2 are looking for is social security, the feeling that they have a herd, and losing this herd is what they cannot risk, and therefore they adjust their behavior. I forgot to mention, women are competing for dominance and, both social and physical dominance, but not in the same way men are doing it. Men are usually doing it directly, and women are doing it indirectly. But anyways, let's continue on to the social urge of behavior group 2. The emotional barrier causes extra caution when socially interacting with people that are to group 2, 1. Personally meaningful, like a preferred social circle or preferred person. Number 2. Socially important people, or number 3. The last social circle. They protect emotions and avoid hurting feelings, as not doing so would be risky. The emotional barrier makes the group not risk hurting these people's feelings. What the group views as risky is personal, and what it's deemed to be risky can also vary depending on the specific relationship. The emotional barrier causes social urges to protect emotions. So here are some of the examples I mentioned previously. Examples of social urges and emotional barrier risky behavior. So all of these here, people of this group can do it, but it is risky behavior. Urges and emotional barrier regards the last social circle. The following examples are only active, they only mean anything if the person of these groups believe the behavior to be mandatory to stay in the last social circle. So most people of group 2, they can do all of this stuff. It's only when they're down to their last social circle and they know that doing this stuff is unacceptable. But many people of group 2 pick up these traits anyways, so if they are not threatened by abandonment, they will usually do all of the following things as well. Of course, it depends a lot, it's a generalization. Number 1, they cannot hurtfully tease or insult in a direct manner, like, damn, you look really fat today. They cannot say no to commands or requests or withdraw yes in a direct manner. They have a social urge to give an excuse if the group really wants to say no. So if they want to say no, they will usually not say no, they will give an excuse as to why they are saying no. Number 3, can't give short direct commands. Do this, do that, pick me up. Do whatever, really. Number 4, they cannot leave people hanging in social settings. Number 5, can't give an honest yet hurtful opinion. Number 6, social urge to act on others' presumed emotions instead of expecting people to speak up. Number 7, they can't do anything that might hurt feelings, a social urge to protect feelings of the last or all social circle. And number 7, of course, women are usually a lot kinder than men. At least when you're interacting with them directly. And some additional examples, not really as important, but speaking loud and articulate with deep voice, normal accent. Number 2, can't decide. Number 3, inactive in conversations, can't lead a narrative or a plan. And number 4, can't differ opinion-wise. Number 4 is a lot more important nowadays when, if you think about politics and stuff like that, most women are leftists, and most leftists are not friends with people who are not leftists. Many women will give in to the social pressure to be a leftist. All examples here create submissive sexual emotion for behavior group 3, unless they have a stronger emotion. So if people of group 3, they pick up any of these traits right here, they will usually have submission as their sexual emotion, unless they have a huge insecurity. That doesn't make them group 2 plus 3. And again, people of group 2 can do all of these things as long as they feel socially secure doing them. Now we're taking a look at the sexual emotion of behavior group 2. So this sexual emotion and their sexuality is quite interesting. They want to submit, they want to let someone else take control in bed. However, they will only enjoy sex with individuals that inspire voluntary social submission from them caused by desire. So unlike men, women will not have sex with anyone. Here we have a few examples, but only ones that mean anything are the two in the middle. People of group 2 doesn't always protect the emotion, but usually submits to the potential sexual partner. People of group 2 doesn't always submit to, but usually protects the emotion of current sexual partner. And the way we need to think about it is like this. If the female or the person in behavior group 2 are actively chasing, they want to land a specific sexual partner, then they will submit to that sexual partner, and that will make them sexually attracted by that sexual partner. It's quite interesting how it works. So if they would submit to someone, they will be sexually attracted to that person. However, well, as a good example, when you get married, then the person of group 2 feels very secure that they have the man by the balls. Therefore, they no longer need to submit to that person in order to keep that person. And therefore, the sex life will die down after marriage. And that's usually the case for so many people, that is the case. Of course, you can maintain a sex life if you know game. People of group 2 will submit to the current sexual partner if they are certain they cannot get a better sexual partner. And they also need to be threatened by abandonment a little bit. Also, the sexual partner will need to be more competent than the individual of group 2 for submission to even be an option, because you will never submit to someone who is less competent in this world than you are. An emotional barrier is a platform, and the emotion causing the emotional barrier will be linked to when the same emotion causes or would cause a social action. People of group 2 will mainly only enjoy sex with people they are pursuing. This group is sexually trying to relate to the emotion of submission, an emotion they only relate to certain people. And yeah, it's quite interesting how it works, because people of group 2 will submit to the people People of group 2 will not submit to people they don't have to submit to in order to keep around. They tame people to the point of no longer being attracted to them. In other words, they need to constantly chase their sexual partner to a small extent to be attracted to them. And this is something you see a lot of men discussing in the red pill community. You have to be chased a little bit for sexual attraction to be there. Factor 2 decides which sex, both, or group of people they want to submit to in bed. And of the sex or group of people that Factor 2 decides for them, they will only be sexually attracted to people they would submit to or people they are actively submitting to. Alright, now we are taking a look at Behavior Group 3, a really important group. The example here is Lil Nas X. We are pretty sure he belongs to this group. This group, they are a bottom. Their sexual emotions are many forms of humiliation, submission, pain, jealousy, and disgust. Also watch the segment for group 3A. It can be quite important to understand how the two groups how they work together, because many people are in a they switch between group 3A and group 3. The majority of group 3 are homosexual men. Masochistic men are also very common. The emotional preset they have is no inner value. The emotional barrier cannot act on an inner sense of value towards strangers who have not recognized it. So when they are acting, they can act on an inner sense of value when they are interacting with friends and social circles, But really it's not an inner sense of value, as the friends and social circles have already approved the value, meaning that the value will come from the outside. So they do not have any social urges. Some traits can be confused with shyness, which is not really the same thing. Being shy is usually not knowing what to say. A very simple behavior group that can cause many fetishes and sexual orientations. Group 3 are prone to switching between Group 3, Group 3A, and sometimes Group 3D. Group 3 are also prone to getting the emotional barrier of Group 2, becoming Group 2 plus 3. Factor 2 decides their preferred sexual partner. Now we're taking a closer look at the emotional barrier of behavior group 3. Showing social value. What is that? Well, that is saying things strangers only should care about if they have an interest in you as a person. In other words, the only thing you are bringing to the table is yourself. The only thing you are bringing to the conversation is yourself. You are not there to help or to, kiss ass. You are there to show yourself off. Number 1. Can't tell strangers things where the purpose/meaning of the sentence is assuming that the strangers should care about them, even though they might have circumstantial value. So here are a few examples of things behavior group 3 cannot do. They cannot walk up to a complete strangers and say, "Hey, I just had a new haircut." Or, "Hey, I just bought a new car." Or, "Hey, the best item on this restaurant is that burger." Because why should the absolute stranger care about that? It's the person saying it that values themselves, and they are not hesitant to act on this inner sense of value, right? But people of group 3, they cannot act on an inner sense of value, and there's no reason for the stranger to care about that unless the stranger genuinely cares about the individual. That is pretty much how this group works. But there are more examples, and number 2 is quite fun because of the meme or the video of Family Guy I showed in the beginning. They cannot join in on conversations with strangers or almost strangers. They cannot join in on private conversations or physically joining in at a table when there are plenty of empty tables. When there are plenty of empty tables and you join in on the table that have, 2 strangers on that table, right? The only thing you are bringing to them, or rather, you are forcing them to recognize you as someone to be dealt with, like you have value. You are inviting yourself. The joining in on conversations part of this emotional barrier can also be active even though one or both participants of the conversation on the table have acknowledged the individual of this group to have some value. However, they cannot do it because the individual of this group must then also feel worthy of joining in on a friendship or a conversation that might be private. Number 3, not doing something because of the fear of not being able to keep up the streak of acting against the emotional barrier. So if you avoid going to something, like going to a party, a conference or whatever, because you are afraid you are not able to act against your emotions, then you are falling for your emotions. Number 4, not acting on an inner sense of value when other people makes them feel not valued. So when people make these people feel not valued, it will become even harder to just act casual, even though they are not showing value. Number 5, avoiding any social interaction or social action because of the emotional barrier against showing value. If they sometimes break this emotional barrier, but are afraid of speaking, let's say, because they are afraid of taking place or whatever. They are falling for the emotional barrier. So the only real reason to overcome this is to become socially unaware, a bit cringe, constantly acting on value, being a bit obnoxious. This emotional barrier can often cause severe antisociality and shyness, but in most cases these people are very socially smooth. These individuals are afraid to assume that they are valuable to other people, as the value only can be rejected by others if they present it. These people can give compliments, ask questions, or say anything to the strangers, as long as the focus is something other than the individuals pointing to their own value. Shyness is not a necessity for this group, many of them are socially smooth. Understand that once the stranger shows a little interest in the person of group 3, the value is therefore approved, and acting on an inner sense of value towards this person is no longer possible, as the person of group 3 feels valued. So when they feel valued by others, this emotional barrier will not be there, as the value is therefore coming from the outside. They cannot act on an inner sense of value. Acting on an inner sense of value is going up and talking to someone just to basically show off. Hey, I had a new car, I had a new haircut, I had a new whatever. This, you want to order this burger right here. Or no, not you want to order this burger right here, because that would be assisting someone else. But yeah, hopefully you understand it. I think I've said it before, but there are going to be one separate video for each behavior group when we are going to go in depth. Also, if you buy the NFT, we are going to make sure that you can ask direct questions to us, if you have any. I also have to mention, when you think about social rejection, think about the responses. Who asked or why are you at our table? If you walk up to a stranger and say, hey, I just had a new haircut, then they would probably say, who asked? If you sit down at a random table at a restaurant, they would say, why are you at our table? So they are socially rejecting you. And then you can give compliments, you can ask for permission to join, and you can ask people about themselves, or you can ask people for help. But when you are providing a form of assistance according to you, then you are showing a form of value. But the value is not really an inner form of value. You are not valuing yourself, you are valuing your expertise, and you're trying to be helpful. This is providing a safe form of value, and it is what differentiates Behavior Group 3 from Behavior Group 3A. Behavior Group 3A, they can provide this helpful form of value, while Group 3 cannot do that. They can only ask questions, give compliments, until their value is approved by the stranger. Now we are taking a look at the sexual emotions of Behavior Group 3. In other words, fetishes. Number 1, emotional barrier is a platform where fetishes are built upon with real-world actions and emotions. Number 2, only enjoys sexual situations that make them feel not good enough, an emotion they can relate to their feeling of no inner sense of value. So here are some fetishes. They have small penis humiliation fetish, cuckold fetish, ball busting fetish, femdom/sissy fetish, chastity, publicly exposed fetish, forced gay fetish, getting raped fetish, submission, just like Behavior Group 2. In some cases, shit and puke stuff. Some cases of foot fetish and pregnant fetish, also senior fetish. So, will enjoy sex with partner that's most fit to humiliate them or dominate them. And that's according to their fetish. For some fetishes, situations are what will make them excited. So for instance, if you have small penis humiliation fetish, or let's say publicly exposed fetish, then there is not a sexual partner there, and no real sexual attraction to any of the sexes are needed. But yeah, sexual attraction is usually necessary for these situations to work, but not always. Sexual attraction is decided by factor 2, and specific groups they are attracted to depends on the fetish. So let's say they have small penis humiliation fetish. They can either be attracted to men who are very large, or they can be attracted to women who belittle them. Group 3 sexual attraction will be explained further in the video. Just like group 2, this group can relate their emotions to certain people depending on the fetish. So of course this is a group with an emotional barrier, meaning that they will not enjoy sex with everybody, just anyone. So let's say cuckold fetish. These people will relate their emotions of having no value to jealousy. Jealousy, well, it should be obvious why those two emotions are related. Jealousy comes from bad confidence, and the emotion of jealousy is related to the people they feel lesser than, who are interacting with their significant other. They will mainly only enjoy being cucked by these people that they feel lesser than. Sometimes they only feel lesser than one specific individual. So let's say you have cuckold fetish. For some people, they will enjoy anyone fucking their partner. For some people who are not very jealous in general, they will only enjoy people who they are genuinely jealous about when that person is interacting with their partner. So it could be someone very close to them that they want to get cucked by. And now finally, before moving on, we are taking a look at fetish causation for behavior group 3. Now, just like group 1D, there are several fetishes, and they are all caused by your insecurities. So most people in behavior group 3 will remain in one of these their entire life. So let's say they have a huge insecurity about their penis size. Then they will have a small penis humiliation fetish. So they can have any of these, and if they do not have a big insecurity, they will most likely become sexually submissive. So getting raped fetish or submission as their sexual emotion. And well, it all depends on which emotion within you are the biggest. Is it is it a specific insecurity, or is it the anger of not getting your way, the anger of having to be submissive at times? Because submission in here, if you have other insecurities, you can still have submission. It depends on which emotion is biggest. So if you have group 2 traits, the traits I mentioned when we were at group 2, then you will most likely have submission. However, if you do not have any insecurities and you're very disagreeable, you do not act like group 2 at all, you will most likely get submission as your sexual emotion anyways, because we all have to submit at times. And we could connect that emotion of submission to feeling less worthy. Even if submission is by all means the right choice, because we all inherently want to be in charge. So yeah, take a look at these examples, and we are moving on to the next behavior group. And now we are taking a look at behavior group 2+3. It should be a pretty straightforward group if you understand group 2 and group 3, because this group are those two groups combined. They are a bottom. Their sexual emotion is submission and humiliation through submission. The majority of group 2+3 are straight women with masochistic tendencies. Their emotional preset, no value, as well as dependence. So emotional barriers, the two groups combined, both those emotional barriers. Social urges, only group 2 they have social urges, so those social urges are the ones they have. Not to be confused with group 3 with feminine traits, and more information is necessary when it comes to this group. We believe many of the people in this group, they have a tendency for, beastiality, basically, fucking dogs. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this slide. So now we're taking a look at the sexual emotions of behavior group 2+3. They want to submit, they want to let someone else take control in bed, they want to get penetrated. The individuals of this group will mainly only enjoy sex with people they are pursuing. In some cases, however, they have a getting raped fetish, in which case the first statement is not entirely true. But we guess that people with getting raped fetish would never actually enjoy getting raped, because there are so many other traumatic elements to an experience other than the sexual. These people will most likely have some of the fetishes of group 3, but a key component will always be submission. Specific fetishes for this group will be looked into further. An emotional barrier is a platform, and the emotion causing the emotional barrier will be linked to when the same emotion causes a social action. People of this group will therefore mainly only enjoy sex with people they are pursuing. Yes, just like group 2. So of the sex they are interested in, they will only have sex with the people they submit to. An interesting note is that these people are generally more promiscuous than group 2. However, they do not pursue due to a lack of confidence in many cases. But when they are getting pursued, it will be a bit easier for men usually. Now we are taking a look at behavior group 3A, and the examples here are priests and Shane Dawson. This group, they are both a bottom and a top, and they have two sexual emotions. They have no value and all the fetishes that comes along with that sexual emotion, and they also have rape fetish or advantage sexual emotion. And if we take a look at Shane Dawson, because he's truly a great example. He's a bisexual YouTuber who admitted to grinding on his cat until he came. And yeah, we assume he belongs to group 3, or 3A, and he seems quite feminine. So when it comes to the part of his sexual emotion that comes from group 3, he probably has submission as that sexual emotion. And when it comes to the advantage part of his sexual emotion, he has rape fetish or beastiality fetish or something like that. At least he had that at some point. And yeah, Shane Dawson is such a great example. If you act like if you belong to group 3, you are prone to acquiring the emotional barrier of group 2. So him acting so feminine for a very long time might disable the rape fetish and also all of the other fetishes in group 3. So perhaps he has just submission as his sexual emotion right now and belongs to group 2+3, or submission through humiliation, that would be. But anyways, majority of group 3A are homosexual men with pedo, sadistic or masochistic tendencies. The emotion here is no inner value, but many times they are eager to show social value. Group 3A has the same emotional barrier as group 3. Of course, the emotional preset is no value, emotional barrier, no inner value, except for when it's safe. That is the exception of the group. Social urge, none. No social urges, traits can be confused with shyness, not the same thing. So here we have a bit of clarification on the exception. Group 3A can act like they have value to strangers when they themselves believe the value they provide is irrefutable. In other words, a social advantage. Some statistics we know is, I think it's 33% of all pedophiles are homosexuals. And well, many of them belong in this group right here. Some people often shift from group 3 and 3A. Super shy people of group 3 will not change to group 3A, nor will people of group 2+3. So yeah, it's possible that Shane Dawson no longer belongs to this group, and Well, it is a bit more complicated. We are going to do another video on sexual energy generation or something like that. Because you can truly belong to group 3, yet have some rape fetish, even though you're not in group 3A. At the time, at least. It's really interesting how it works. We will cover sexual energy generation more in the coming video. Well, if our NFT performs, that is. But yeah, let's continue on with the group. Here is the slide on the social advantages Behavior Group 3A uses to show risk-free value. So as we spoke about in Behavior Group 3, acting on an inner sense of value could be something like walking up to a stranger and saying, "Hey, I just got a new haircut." Now that is not interesting to the stranger. And of course the stranger could reply, "I did not ask." Therefore meaning that the person of group 3 gets socially rejected. Now if you look at the middle of the screen right here, you can see risk-free value. And we are going to define it now. So it's value that could be useful / interesting to the strangers. The stranger or the strangers. From there on, the value is not related or could raise questions about the value of the individual of group 3A. So the point of the sentence is not the individual of group 3A. The point of the sentence is being helpful in most cases. Yeah. So we have a few examples of acting on risk-free value. We have some unconfirmed there with a really small text. We are not going to waste time on them. But the confirmed one, knowledge advantage / confirmed status. When the individual of group 3A overhears a subject they are certain that they know a lot about or know specific relevant facts that the conversation holders may or may not seek, the individual of group 3A can both join in on the conversation and provide the circumstantial value of their expertise. So, of course, they would not just join in, they would always provide the information as a way into the conversation. So it regards specific expertise / knowledge or situation or event relevant information. And yeah, confirmed status, by that we mean that a discussion being held by two strangers confirms the status or the value of the person of group 3A, making them feel like their value is irrefutable. So let's say, yeah. Okay, I can't think of an example right now. I will do an example later on the slide, but let's continue. An example of providing this form of risk-free value we have right here. Group 3A at a bus stop. A stranger walks towards the schedule. Group 3A, who has already checked it, says the bus arrives 10:22. So doing this one time generates a small amount of sexual energy. And this sexual energy will come out in the form of advantage sexual emotion, so rape fetish. And yeah, doing it many times will make the rape side of group 3A's sexual emotion grow larger and larger. So the exception is that group 3A can act like they have value to strangers when they themselves believe the value they provide is irrefutable. Most often from knowing a form of value is invited or welcomed. In other words, a social advantage. They are providing value when the value is certain. And they cannot receive social backlash, like who asked or you're not invited. So basically, look at me, I'm genuinely valuable because they are currently providing value. And this value is sought after. So yeah, confirmed status. Okay, so let's say your father is a very famous tennis player. And then two people are discussing his game. When he plays tennis. And therefore you feel free to join in, even though you are in group 3A. Because your status is already confirmed by it. you know that you are valuable in that conversation because the famous tennis player they are discussing is your father. So yeah, hopefully it all makes sense. We are going to focus a lot of this on this group, so we will have more examples, more sentences that, sentences of acting on this risk-free value in the separate video about the group. So do not worry if you do not understand, but hopefully most of you should understand how the dynamic works in the group. And now we are taking a look at the sexual emotion of behavior group 3A. So on this slide we are just going to focus on the advantage sexual emotion, or the rape fetish. So rape fetish can often be consensual sex, but with a group that presents real life traits of powerlessness, like kids, animals, and seniors. And this has to do with factor 2. The trait of powerlessness can also be replaced with a situation where a person is powerless. So if you tie someone strong, you tie them up, right? That is a bit how it works. This is not the same rape fetish as in group 1D. Ignoring and not finding the advantage part of their sexual emotion can lead to fantasies of violence or general aggression. So most people in this behavior group are interested in young boys. We are probably going to cover the reason why it's young boys specifically in another video. Some of them, of course, quite many of them want to rape women. So the women must be in a powerless situation. And when it comes to young boys, for instance, it doesn't need to be rape. It could be consensual. But the truth is, of course, that it is never consensual. And all pedophiles know this, and that is why they enjoy it. It's part of the reason. We are going to go further into this group. There will be a huge video on it. So, factor 2 decides which sex, or both, or group of people they want to submit to, get humiliated by, or rape, or have consensual rape sex with. So, of the sex they are interested in, they will want to either have consensual sex with a group that displays powerlessness, or they want to rape a group that has power. This group's attraction will work like group 3 if the sexual emotion they choose to utilize is masochistic. Here we are, the last behavior group we are going to cover in today's video. Behavior group 3D. They are both a bottom and a top, meaning that they want to both be in control and let someone else take control. Their sexual emotion is all of that of group 3, so they have all the humiliation, fetishes, the submission, all of that stuff from group 3, since it is a abbreviation of group 3. Then they also have the D extension part from behavior group 1D, which is humiliating, scaring others, basically projecting their own insecurity. The majority of group 3D are sadistic and masochistic homosexual. The emotion is fear of abandonment, or fear of being weak, fear of responsibility, all of that good stuff of group 1D, plus no value to people who have not approved their value. So that's their emotional preset. Their emotional barrier is they cannot act on an inner sense of value towards strangers, and their social urges are to slander, bully, and put people down. Of course, factor 2 decides which sex or group of people they want to get dominated by, humiliated by, or humiliate in bed. So yeah, this group is not really that common. It makes sense that the D extension could be placed after this group, and it took a long time before we found it. It also makes sense a bit of sense at least if we could place the D extension behind behavior group 2. That is not something we have found, but since it makes sense, we will do work on it to hopefully include it in the book as well. But yeah, that is it for the behavior groups. Let's move on. If you intend to use any of the information about emotional presets and behavior groups, there are some things you need to know. So we have established the 2 emotional presets. Emotional barriers, a deeply rooted fear of doing a specific social action. And then there are social urges, an inability to handle certain emotion. And this inability will lead to social actions. Acting against an emotional barrier will change your sexual emotion temporarily. Ignoring a social urge will make the sexual emotion it causes weaker. If you fail to act against or ignore them the next time they present themselves, you will return to the first sexual emotion, the one you are changing from. Just the mindset, I will fail ignoring or acting against the emotions is a failure. Since everything is in your brain, so it makes sense, and that is how it works. If you attempt to change behavior group, you should subscribe to us and wait for our in-depth video on that specific behavior group you belong to, and we will provide you with more information on changing. You will most likely return to your original behavior group within a couple of hours or days if you act against an emotional barrier. It depends on your personality, if you're introverted or extroverted. It depends on a lot of factors. But you can just act against this emotional barrier again and again and again, and finally you do not have to do it anymore. If you belong to an unnatural behavior group for your sex and you are, attracted to the same sex, factor 2 is often not of relevance for your case. So if you belong to group 3 and you are attracted to men, if you change from group 3 to group 1, you will usually, within a week or 2, become very attracted to women again, just as attracted as you are to men right now. So we have now gone through all of the behavior groups, and what we have just done is covered the basics. So hopefully you understand the basics of behavior groups and social urges and emotional barriers. Because there's a bit more to it, not a lot. For instance, it's not the emotional barrier that creates your sexual emotion. It is an emotion you always carry with you. So the question is then, can you control your subconscious mind? Well, who knows? Behavior group, like group 2, form relationships where their emotional barriers and social urges are a foundation. And it's quite easy to understand why it could happen with a group like group 2, but it can also occur for group 3. Behavior groups are like a spectrum. You can generate sexual energy from different emotional barriers and social urges, causing multiple sexual emotions. As an example, you can be in between behavior group 1 and 3, or 1 and 2. It is, however, more common to belong fully to one group. Of course, more detailed information is coming. Hopefully you now understand it, you can place yourself in a behavior group. If not, please help us find a new behavior group. We will make a video for each new behavior group we find, how to change from that behavior group, and how that behavior group works with the views of the sexes, which is factor 2. So yeah, there will be one video for each behavior group, how to change from that behavior group, as well as how that behavior group works along with the views of the sexes, factor 2. And now it is time for factor 2. Here we are, factor 2, the views of the sexes. Sexes in that sentence could also be replaced with groups of people or animals. There are 2 layers of sexual attraction. There is number 1, temporary attraction, your memory of what you are attracted to. And if you change behavior group, it will last long initially. Temporary attraction is what will make you horny and hard. So then we have the second layer, views of the sexes. The second layer is pretty much factor 2. The first layer of attraction is not that relevant for most people. The group you are attracted to are, according to you, an outlet for your sexual emotion. So if you are in group 1, you are a man, you have dominance as your sexual emotion, then in most cases you believe women to be an outlet for your sexual emotion. So you believe women to be sexually submissive and therefore you are attracted to them. Views of the sexes is what will make you believe the sexual act. Because temporary features/dynamics presented in a sexual situation can substitute views of the sexes, but it will not be as pleasurable. So, if you are a man in group 1, and you have dominance as your sexual emotion, then you just need to experience dominance to get off. But it would not be as pleasurable without this, without having the group of people or sex or animal that you believe is sexually submissive there with you to receive your sexual dominance. So you could, in theory, sexually penetrate a man and enjoy it. But when it comes to when it comes to that specific example, men will not enjoy it because they will be disgusted. Factor 2 depends on a lot of factors, and causes for an abnormal factor 2 are very personal. And yeah, if you change behavior group, it's a bit more straightforward. There are only so many paths towards initially changing behavior group from your sex's predisposed behavior group. And that's not the case with factor 2. Here we have temporary attraction. You can fool yourself until the sexual act or until you find your true sexual emotion output. So all of these examples here are mind gymnastics that will build a small amount of sexual attraction for a group of people or a sex that isn't your true sexual emotion output. And of course, for almost all people, doing all of these things cannot change your sexual attraction if you want to experience your sexual emotion. But they're important anyways. So, number 1, attraction by association. You associate one sex to the pleasure of ejaculation, and this also goes for objects. There were this famous study where they got men to become aroused just by looking at shoes, because I guess they were looking at naked women, then shoes, naked women, then shoes, and then they just showed a picture of a shoe and the men got attracted or aroused. Number 2, attraction by imagination. You imagine one sex in a sexual situation. Number 3, attraction by forced focusing on a specific sex. So if you're a straight man and you are not, given that you're not disgusted by the male anatomy, as most straight men are, if you force yourself to focus on them and try and appreciate their autonomy, perhaps that can build a small amount of sexual attraction for them. Number 4, attraction male to female caused by testosterone boost. So testosterone also boosts your libido and also your sexual energy. Sexual energy is, it is a form of your, it's a part of your libido, basically. And same goes for number 5, attraction female to male caused by estrogen boost. And number 6, attraction caused by believing you belong to a different behavior group. So let's say you are in group number 3 and you want to change to group 1 and you perform a social action you believe is, you believe you are acting against your emotional barrier. But in reality, it was a flawed social action. So your sexual emotion didn't change. However, just the mindset can cause a small amount of sexual attraction towards women in that case. Temporary attraction also regards fetishes / sexual emotions. So if you are in group 3 and you have cuckold fetish, and then you change to group, you convert to group 1, meaning that you now have dominance as your sexual emotion. Until you fully explore your fetishes, you will still be turned on by them. But once you try and explore them, once you're in a different behavior group, like group 1, your temporary attraction for this fetish will usually die down quite quickly. Temporary attraction is often irrelevant, but it can last initially for years. For years during the initial change of sexual emotion. So yeah, it can be of importance to understand temporary attraction. Here we are back at the table. We can take a look at factor 1 and factor 2 here, and we cannot stress it enough. We need your help to find more of these behavior groups. Please help us help other people. And taking a look at this table, it's a bit different this time. There's no pride flag, and it's changed a bit to the right. So what we are going to focus on right now is the middle section. There you can see attracted to, and if we take a look at group 1, it says sexually submissive group. And the reason group 1 are attracted to a group they view sexually submissive is because of their sexual emotion. And that's something you need to keep in mind. It's because of their sexual emotion. Because when it comes to many of these other groups, there are several sexual emotions. For instance, group 3, there are several types of humiliation, jealousy, pain, and submission. So it depends on which emotion is their channel, is their expression of having no inner value. So for the people that have submission, if we take a look at group 3, for the people that have submission as their sexual emotion, they will be attracted to a group of people they view sexually dominant. If we take a look at their sexual emotion again, and we look at, or hypothetically, they have several types of humiliation fetishes, then they will be attracted to the best provider of humiliation according to their fetish. So it's important to understand that attraction, when it comes to factor 2, depends on which fetish they have when it comes to the groups with several sexual emotions, like group 1D, group 3, group 2+3, group 3A, and group 3D. But when it comes to group 1 and 2, there are only one sexual emotion in each of them. And what we are going to focus on today, or right now, is of course what makes people believe a group of people or a sex to be sexually submissive or sexually dominant. The other ones, the sexual attraction for all the other groups we are going to save to the separate videos, otherwise this video would be way too long. It's already long as it is. So we are going to focus on the traits and experiences that make people believe a group of people, a sex or animals, kids, to be sexually submissive and sexually dominant. The most important traits. So, your brain is actively trying to stereotype people, sexes, and everything in order to help you survive. That's the way the brain works. And here we can take a look at the traits that make up the view for viewing a sex or a group of people as sexually dominant or sexually submissive. So, if your sexual energy, it doesn't matter which group you belong to, if it's group 2, group 2+3, or group 3, if your sexual emotion is submission, you will be attracted to the group that's sexually dominant. And here are the traits that make up the view. So, number 1, dangerous, physical dominance, in other words, respectable. Number 2, disagreeable, decisive, and emotionally stable. So number 1 is really important, number 2 is quite important. Now, we can take a look at the traits that make up sexually submissive, make up that view. Number 1, emotionally understanding, protects your emotion, nurturing and supportive. Number 2, submissive and agreeable. So, what you have to keep in mind, think about how you view men and women. So it's relative. According to you, which sex carries these traits? In most cases, you will place men at masculine and women at feminine. And some people will say, well, I can't do a generalization like that. So if you think both, then think about which sex are more prone to carrying these traits. Your opinion is a part of your sexual attraction. So this is something to keep in mind. There are, of course, more things that weigh into your views of the sexes. What decides/maintains your views of the sexes? Real-world traits you associate to the sexes. That's the most important thing. And those traits are the ones I just mentioned on the previous slide. Traits can be personal, meaning that they could be something else other than I just mentioned, but usually that's not the case. Sometimes priorities and how you socially handle the sexes can override/affect your view of the sexes. And that's not really important now. So things to think about. There are some amplifiers here. If we first take a look at the people, you have your parents, your siblings, your family. Number 2, the individuals you frequently meet and your social circle. Number 3, all the people you ever meet and all social interactions you see. And number 4, media, like social media, television, and whatever. Well, let's start with the most obvious, with the most important people come in. And those are your parents. And there's an amplifier here. Because when you're young, you're more impressionable to these traits. So therefore, your parents, they carry a huge weight in making your view of the sexes. Also, your individuals you frequently meet, your social circle, especially your social circle when you were a bit younger. Puberty, roughly that age, is really important. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the people. And now we're going to take a look at your mind. Because we have number 1 right here. The way you socially handle the sexes. And that's really important because the way you socially handle the sexes. Perhaps you categorize a behavior. You handle men like this and you handle women like that. And that is because it's a direct expression of your views of the sexes. Number 2, thoughts. Thoughts you have about the sexes. Number 3, priorities. And number 4, open-mindedness. And open-mindedness, that's pretty much, how open-minded are you to believing women are sexually dominant or men are sexually submissive? Yeah, so let's continue on with the people. The people. The people around you plays a part in building and maintaining your views of the sexes. So here there are in order of importance. We have the amplifiers right there as well. And what matters the most when you think about these people are the traits that I just mentioned. Do the people in your life, like your parents and the individuals you frequently meet, do they fit into the stereotypes? Or rather, do they have the traits? But yeah, you can think stereotype-wise how you would stereotypically view men and stereotypically view women. And yeah, maybe nowadays men are more feminine and women are more masculine. But yeah. Are there any traumatic or drug-induced events that are relevant to the sexes? So, do you have any trauma? An event you constantly replay in your mind. And does this trauma have anything to do with men or women? And then think about, do the men or women in this trauma have Is there something wrong with the traits they carry? Drug-induced events. For some reason, we do not know why, but cannabis has a huge effect on factor 2. If you are traumatized when you were young, it matters even more. And all of the people you ever meet matter more when you are young as well. How you respond to the surroundings matter more than your surroundings, but your reaction or action usually speaks for your views of the sexes anyways. People will often avoid or test masculine women, like test their temper or their emotional stability. And most masculine women will fail this test. It's a test we give, men give each other. They roast each other, basically, to test each other's emotional stability. Most masculine women fail this test, and therefore they are still viewed as sexually submissive. And of course, as well, if you just avoid them. Many people will also disrespect or use feminine men. And it should be easy to understand why that's the case. This is a way of upholding a normal view of the sexes, even though it's not nice. People can maintain their views of the sexes by merely noticing an abnormal trait a person has. Because if it wasn't abnormal, it wouldn't cross your mind twice. So truly being aware of the people and their traits, it can really help you maintaining a normal view of the sexes. A problem that can occur for some people of group 1 is that women could be unwilling to ever submit to them or protect their emotions. This can be for various reasons and is a common cause for viewing men as more sexually submissive, especially if they are treated with more respect and men protect their emotions even more. For this to be the case, there usually needs to be, usually the mother of a person in group 1 like this needs to be unwilling to submit to their child or protect the emotions of their child. Mothers usually do not submit to children, but they protect their emotions. Sometimes they submit to them as well, of course. But yeah. The people. How social circles are supposed to work for men. You cannot decide your family, but your social circles can be controlled. For men, social circles are supposed to work in a particular way. Men are supposed to climb the dominance ladder, meaning that the people in their social circle are about as dominant as they are in the areas of interest. This is important as it will build the caution men have when dealing with men, and respect, that is. Constantly being around men with lower dominance, weaker will, and emotionally understanding, more emotionally understanding than you are, can make you view men as sexually submissive. In most cases, this will only occur if the view of women is somewhat skewed. For both men and women, it's important to be around women who protects emotions. And it will usually always occur if you have women in your social circle. However, women, they usually do not protect emotions of people who are not in their social circle. So it's important to have women around you. But other than that, mothers or trauma is the main cause of people not viewing women as sexually submissive. But of course, it can also have something to do with constant rejection, like rejection as a sexual partner or rejection of a woman not wanting to be in your social circle. Social adjustment based on views of the sexes. Which sex is the sexually dominant one to men and women? How you handle the sexes has an impact on your views of the sexes, and so does how you let the sexes handle you. And here are a few examples of how the sexes handle you. Are men or women the inner or upper hug in your social circle? Are men and women the inner or outer spoon? Perhaps you do not spoon around with all of your friends. But who takes up the most space generally, men or women? What we are talking about is physical dominance. So are women or men the physically dominant ones? Does the will of a woman usually trump the will of a man without male supporters? So here we have decision dominance. Men are usually the ones making decisions when it comes to social circles. And yeah, when you think about women doing it, do they have male supporters? Because many men will just, push their own narrative and their own will and force it upon everyone. It can happen, depending on the social circle. But yeah, think about that. Decision dominance. Who is the shot caller? Do men or women control conversations? So that is just, how you talk. Who is the one making all of the topics? Do men or women decide what is socially acceptable to say and do? Are they controlling the culture? And this is social dominance. So think about it. Who mainly plays the dominant role to you? Is it men or women? The reason why men or women play the dominant role to you is of significance. If women play the dominant role, it can be because of simping, decency, or low willpower among the men. Or it could also be because of respect. Now, respect is usually confused with decency. Respect comes from a hint of fear or valuing a person's ability. If they do it because of respect, the fear form of respect is the one we are talking about. This respect has usually been attributed to the sex through trauma. Many women will be dominant if given the choice, especially in today's society. Men generally do not believe men are sexually submissive due to the respect they have of each other. They have this hint of fear. Men treat each other with a type of caution as they see each other as dangerous, unless they are around men with lower dominance. Men can of course find women not sexually submissive without having this type of respect for them. You can be individually afraid of women, but that's usually not the case. So if you are afraid of women, the amount and presence of these individuals are very relevant. Social adjustment based on views of the sexes. Which sex is the sexually dominant one to women? For women, the same goes. They generally respect men more than women because of the lethality men carry. Even though this respect comes from a hint of fear, respect and fear are not the same thing. So think of motorcycles. A person who fears motorcycles will never get on a motorcycle. However, the motorcyclist who rides it all the time, the reason he is not dead yet is because he respects the motorcycle. He is being cautious of the danger. Women who genuinely fear men will not submit to men, and even if they do, they would obviously be at discomfort doing so. And you have to keep in mind women's sexuality and how the sexual attraction works for group 2. So they are attracted to the ones they would submit to or currently are submitting to. And if they are at constant discomfort doing so, it will make them find less and less men they are sexually attracted to. And this doesn't make women view men as less sexually dominant, but it will make them open-minded and accept dominant women. Happily accept dominant women. Hopefully these dominant women are of group 1, not all dominant women are. Asexuality can occur from this scenario if women are genuinely afraid of men. And it can also occur if they refuse dominant women. So you also have to keep in mind that women who will not submit to men, not all of them would accept, would be attracted to dominant women. It's very much an individual thing. So if you're genuinely afraid of women as a woman, hatred can have the same outcome. Thoughts. Replaying thoughts in your head can skew the view of the sexes. And here we have an example. A man of group 3 can get erect playing the dominant role in bed. And that is because he replaced the thought of him not being enough to please women. In this case, the thought will enforce the idea that women are superior to him. And he will then most likely enjoy getting dominated by them in bed. But he will be fine with him being the dominant role. The man of group 3 is obviously attracted to women. So he maintains this attraction. And this is not only temporary attraction. He believes women to be the most fit to humiliate him. And he replaced that thought. So he feels humiliated when he is dominating, basically. This example is also correct for some pedophiles of group 1. They replay the thought of themselves as a young boy getting raped, therefore viewing what they were, which is young, as sexually submissive. However, we suspect that pedophile victims that become pedos mainly do so because of changing behavior groups. Possibly to a behavior group we have not yet found, but a lot of them are in group 3A and 1D. Constantly having the belief of not being able to please women can cause men of group 1 to be attracted to men, if they are met by more submission and respect from the male figures. There are many thought patterns that can influence the views of the sexes, but these thoughts can usually be disarmed by social actions and experiences that disprove these thought patterns. Thoughts are your conscious views of the sexes. Thoughts can also be used to explain why women, in some cases today in the West, are more dominant than men. And that's something you have to think about. You have to understand why women are becoming more and more dominant and men are becoming more and more feminine. It can help if you are of group 1 and you are homosexual. I guess that's pretty much it for thoughts. Unless... Open-mindedness. So we spoke a bit about it with the example of the female who were afraid of men. She became more open-minded due to a lack of selection of males she was sexually attracted to. So how open-minded you are determines how easily factor 2 changes. So how willing are you to learn new features about the sex? That's something to think about. How do you view the traditional roles of the sexes? Having leftists' beliefs, saying that the traditional roles are evil, it can cause a momentum that later on creates bisexuality in many cases. Because in a way they can force themselves without knowing it to become sexually attracted to the other sex, or to the same sex rather. Do you frequently change your mind, and can you process being wrong? If you frequently change your mind about topics and stuff and you can handle being wrong, then factor 2 changes more easily. Many people in today's society can't handle being wrong. And please tell me if I'm wrong with this theory. We have spent a lot of work on it, so we are pretty confident. But yeah, tell me in the comments. A good measurement of how good you are at understanding new perspectives is how often do you change your mind about a political topic. Because many people nowadays carry a political topic very close to the heart, and therefore it will be hard for them to abandon that that ideology or idea they have, even if they are proven wrong. Having weaker views of the sexes will often lead to being more open-minded about their traits. Well, of course it will. Weaker meaning that you believe both men and women to be quite submissive, or both being quite dominant, or both being, well, both dominant and submissive. So yeah, there's more room for movement when the borders are less defined. And yeah, also, prison gay is becoming more open-minded about men's ability to be sexually submissive. Can also have something to do with the people, if the people generally are very nice, but that's usually not the case. It can have something to do with being at the top of the prison dominance hierarchy, meaning that other people are afraid to piss the person who is prison gay off. So they protect the emotions of that person because he's really dangerous. He's so dangerous that he becomes a homosexual. So a few final words on factor 2 and a bit about factor 1 as well. So do not confuse views of the sexes for a behavior group we have not yet found. So for instance, if you're a man of group 1 and you like to dominate men, yet you view women as sexually submissive, and men as sexually dominant. That is probably because of a behavior group not yet found. So keep that in mind. The two factors can be tricky. Trauma is the biggest cause of factor 2 changing, and we need more information. We of course need more information about behavior groups as well, and there will be several surveys done by us on our forums. So if you would like to participate and truly help, fill out one of those surveys if there is a quirk to your sexuality. A weak family unit is the biggest reason for both factors being messed up. So a strong family unit will help you maintain and build a healthy view of the sexes. And yeah, families, and especially your parents, they will help you enforce beliefs that you carry like they are your own, beliefs about yourself. And these beliefs will help you in certain situations that could cause you to change behavior group. So yeah. Views of the sexes, yeah, we have covered this in one slide, but views of the sexes are in most cases relative, meaning that if you view both men and women as sexually submissive, you will usually be attracted to the sex you view more sexually submissive. And for many people with that are in that situation, they will never explore and never even think about it. So they will be repulsed by the other sex until they can see it with their own eyes, the wrong sex being sexually submissive or the wrong sex being, sexually dominant or whatever. For dominance, it doesn't always work like that, but either way, it's a good rule of thumb. You have just watched Dissidentu's theory about sexuality. So, what is going to happen now? During the project, we are going to produce a separate video on each behavior group, how their group works with their views of the sexes, and also how to change from that behavior group and how to change views of the sexes. There will be a new video for every new behavior group discovered. Please help. There will be a summary video like this one every now and then, so you do not have to watch all of the updates if you're just getting into the channel and the project. We are going to produce many super short videos with basic information meant to go viral. And it will of course help promote truth and possibly help our NFT sales. If our project is more valuable to you than the NFT price, please consider buying one. We are not going to shove it down your throat, but truly we are doing this to help people. And if you would like to help us back, if you appreciate it, please consider buying one. Yeah. So when the project is finished, we are going to deliver a high production video narrated and written by professionals, and that will be free for everyone. And yeah, it will be narrated by someone other than me. I'm the, well, leader of this specific project, therefore I'm doing the narration, even though I'm not super good at speaking. But yeah, the quality will only go up from here if the NFT performs even just a little bit. Possibly we are going to produce program for each behavior groups and views of the sexes, you know, how to change them. It would be really helpful, you know, for pedophiles, animal lovers, and yeah, other people. But that's a maybe, so we will see. There will be a redeemable NFT sent out to all the holders of our NFT for a high quality book. And yeah, so if you want to buy the NFT, but you do not want to receive the book, we will keep it for a lifetime and it will be in mint condition so someone can, well, redeem it in the future. And yeah, we are going to start a new project with new NFTs. So this project, well, the NFTs for this project, the price is quite hefty. And that is because it's going to fund this project as well as future projects. And there will be more NFTs you will receive for free if you buy into this first one. So yeah, check it out. And yeah. Thank you so much for watching Dissidentus Project 1. Hopefully you got something very valuable out of the video, and if it changed your life, please invest your money in us. We did this all for free, and imagine what we could do with $1 million. Click the link in the description to come to our main document. You will find a bunch of useful links there, and we are going to update it soon. So save that link, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.